Frasier was never designed to be loud television. It didn't chase youth, trends, or disposable laughs. Instead, it made a far riskier bet in Hollywood. It trusted intelligence. At a time when television demanded immediacy and volume, Frasier chose patience, structure, and emotional consequence, believing those qualities would survive long after the noise faded. For a while, the gamble paid off. Awards accumulated. Critics fell in line. Viewers grew older alongside the characters. But few ever saw how unstable that success truly was. Beneath the elegant apartment, the flawless timing, and the refined insults lay a chain of decisions that nearly destroyed the show before it found its identity. Risky casting, creative rules that felt self-destructive, choices that defied everything television executives thought audiences wanted. Frasier endured not because it was safe, but because it was disciplined. This wasn't just a sitcom, it was a wager against time itself. 1. The show survived because it refused to make anyone stupid. The single most important decision behind Frasier was also its most dangerous. The writers banned stupidity. Not just cheap jokes, but stupid behavior. No character was ever allowed to suddenly lose intelligence to move the plot forward. In Hollywood sitcom culture, this was almost suicidal. Executives believed audiences needed exaggerated incompetence to laugh. Frasier rejected that outright. Every character, Frasier, Niles, Roz, Martin, remained internally consistent, intelligent in their own way, even when they failed. That forced the comedy to come from psychology, ego, timing, and emotional collision instead of slapstick shortcuts. The consequence was immediate. Writing became harder, rehearsal became stricter, and scripts broke more often. But the long-term effect was something rare: trust. Viewers didn't feel manipulated. They felt respected. And respect creates loyalty, especially among older audiences who can smell condescension instantly. This rule became the spine of the series. Every other weird choice only worked because this discipline came first. 2. Niles Crane existed because one photo exposed a creative opportunity. Frasier Crane alone was clever. Frasier with Niles was combustible. Niles was not planned. He was born from a casting photo that revealed a near-mirror image of Kelsey Grammer. Instead of ignoring it, the creators leaned in and accidentally unlocked the show's engine. Niles wasn't comic relief. He was consequence. Every insecurity Frasier carried, Niles reflected back with surgical precision. Professional rivalry, cultural elitism, romantic paralysis, childhood resentment. This doubled the show's psychological depth overnight. Now, comedy didn't just come from situations. It came from identity. Two men with the same upbringing, the same education, and wildly different outcomes, trying to prove who deserved to exist more comfortably in the world. That dynamic gave Frasier its farce, its tenderness, and its cruelty. Without Niles, the show would have plateaued quickly. With him, it gained narrative longevity. The lesson is brutal but clear. Sometimes the most powerful storytelling move isn't invention, it's recognition. 3. Roz Doyle grounded the show by refusing to orbit male ego. Roz Doyle worked because she was never impressed. Early versions of the character leaned closer to stereotype, and that path nearly derailed the show. The recasting of Roz was painful but necessary. When Perry Gilpin stepped in, the tone shifted immediately. Roz wasn't written as inferior, dazzled, or emotionally dependent on Frasier's intellect. She was pragmatic, sexually confident, and emotionally literate. That contrast mattered. In a show overflowing with overthinking men, Roz became the pressure valve. She didn't deflate intelligence, she contextualized it. Her presence prevented Frasier from becoming an insulated male fantasy of wit and refinement. For older viewers especially, Roz represents lived adulthood. Work, compromise, clarity earned through experience rather than theory. The cause and effect is undeniable. Without Roz, the show collapses inward. With her, it breathes. This is why Frasier never felt dated in its gender dynamics the way many 90-second sitcoms now do. 4. The theme song was hidden because the show didn't need to announce itself. Most sitcoms introduce themselves loudly. Frasier refused. The creators deliberately pushed the theme song to the end credits, treating it not as an invitation, but as a reflection. This choice reinforced a quiet confidence. The show would earn your attention first, then reward you. Even more unusual, the lead actor insisted on singing it himself, not as spectacle, but as intimacy. The lyrics never mention psychiatry directly, yet they communicate emotional disorder, confusion, and longing, precisely the terrain the show inhabits. Tossed salads and scrambled eggs isn't whimsy, it's metaphor, lives out of order. Feelings mixed together, problems without clean solutions. For older audiences, that subtext resonates deeply. The song becomes less a jingle and more a signature, like a host walking you to the door after a long, meaningful conversation. The effect is subtle, but cumulative. The show doesn't shout what it is. It trusts you to recognize it. 5. Martin's chair symbolized the cost of adulthood, not bad taste. Martin Crane's chair wasn't just ugly furniture, it was narrative warfare. Designed specifically to clash with Frasier's aesthetic world, the chair represented intrusion, aging, and loss of control. Frasier's repeated attempts to remove or disguise it always failed, because the show understood something painful. Adulthood isn't about winning arguments, it's about accommodating reality. Martin didn't need to change for Frasier to grow. Frasier needed to adapt. The chair became a physical reminder that taste, status, and self-image mean less when confronted with responsibility and family obligation. For viewers over 50, this hits close to home. Everyone eventually inherits something they didn't choose: aging parents, compromises, limitations. Frasier turned that truth into comedy without diminishing its weight. The chair never disappears because life doesn't offer clean resolutions, and that honesty is why the joke never gets old. 6. Eddie the dog functioned as silent judgment. Eddie barely moved. He didn't speak. He simply looked, and that look landed harder than dialogue. Played by 2 dogs across the series, Eddie became the show's quiet conscience. While the humans spiraled into ego, obsession, and self-deception, Eddie observed unimpressed, unbothered. His stillness sharpened the comedy because it grounded it. Reaction shots matter more than punchlines when a show understands timing. Eddie also symbolized something deeper. Animals see through performance. They respond to behavior, not language. In a sitcom obsessed with words, Eddie was the ultimate truth teller. His presence reminded viewers that no amount of eloquence can hide insecurity forever. For an older audience that has watched people talk themselves into circles for decades, Eddie's silence speaks volumes. He is proof that sometimes the most powerful commentary requires no dialogue at all. 7. Seattle was chosen as mood, not geography. Frasier was almost set elsewhere. The pivot to Seattle wasn't romantic, it was strategic. The city offered emotional neutrality, intellectual credibility, and cultural ambiguity. Rain, coffee, introspection. Seattle felt thoughtful without being aggressive, cultured without being elitist. Most importantly, it allowed the show to exist outside the noise of East Coast dominance. Ironically, very little of the series was filmed there. Seattle functioned as atmosphere, not realism, and that choice mattered. The show wasn't about place, it was about interior life. For older viewers, this abstraction works. Memory often detaches emotion from location. What lingers is tone, not detail. Good night, Seattle became a ritual, not a reference. A soft landing after emotional turbulence. The cause and effect is clear. By choosing mood over authenticity, Frasier gained timelessness instead of topicality. 8. The theatrical structure allowed chaos without collapse. Frasier borrowed more from stage farce than traditional sitcom rhythm. Black title cards replaced exterior shots. Acts escalated with precision. Doors opened and closed like choreography. This structure allowed chaos to build without disintegrating. Every misunderstanding had a foundation. Every explosion had logic. That discipline is rare and expensive. It demands rehearsals, rewrites, and restraint, but it pays off in rewatch value. Older audiences appreciate craftsmanship because they've seen what happens when it's absent. Frasier doesn't rush, it constructs. And because of that, its best episodes don't age, they mature. The lesson here is professional. Structure is not limitation. It's freedom earned through control. Hollywood often forgets this. Frasier never did. 9. The legacy endures because the show respected time. Ultimately, Frasier survived because it understood time as an ally, not an enemy. It didn't chase youth. It didn't flatten complexity. It allowed characters to repeat mistakes, carry scars, and evolve slowly. That patience mirrored real life. For viewers who have lived long enough to recognize patterns, Frasier feels less like nostalgia and more like recognition. The show proves that intelligence doesn't alienate audiences, it filters them, and what remains is loyalty. The lesson is simple and difficult. If you build for immediacy, you expire with trends. If you build for consequence, you endure. Frasier chose consequence, and that choice explains why, decades later, it still listens and is still heard. Frasier endures because it never tried to outrun time, it learned how to live inside it. The show understood that intelligence doesn't need to shout, that comedy deepens when characters face consequences, and that dignity can coexist with failure. Its legacy isn't just clever writing or award counts. It's proof that respect for the audience creates loyalty that lasts decades. In a television landscape increasingly built on speed and noise, Frasier remains a reminder that restraint is not weakness, it's confidence. And for viewers who have lived long enough to recognize life's patterns, that confidence feels rare and comforting. If Frasier shaped the way you see television, share the episode that stayed with you the longest. And if this story made you look at the show differently, let us know which moment hit closest to home.